Hello there, and welcome to Nightfall Science. Tonight, we drift gently away from the busy world and out into the quiet of space, into our own solar system. It is the small corner of the universe we call home, a single warm star, a handful of wandering worlds, and a great deal of soft, patient darkness in between. There are planets here wrapped in golden cloud, and planets frozen far from the light. There are moons that hide whole oceans, rings made of glittering ice, and storms that have turned for centuries without ever growing tired, and all of it moves slowly, silently, in long and graceful circles around the sun. We will begin close to that warmth, and drift slowly outward, world by world, until we reach the cold and distant edge where the sun is little more than a bright star. There is nothing you need to remember tonight, and nowhere you need to be. This is simply a slow journey through the place we belong. If you find a little peace in these quiet journeys, you're welcome to follow along, leave a gentle thought below, or share it with someone who needs rest tonight. It helps these calm nights find others, one drifting mind at a time. But for now, there is nothing more to do. Let yourself grow comfortable. Let your shoulders ease away from the day. Let your breathing slow, and let your eyes grow heavy whenever they wish to. The solar system has turned for billions of years, and it will keep turning softly while you fall asleep. Let's begin. Our solar system began as a slow, drifting cloud. Long before there were planets, before there was even a sun, there was only a vast cloud of gas and dust, floating quietly in the dark. It was cold and thin and almost endlessly patient. For ages it simply drifted, going nowhere in particular. Then, gently, gravity began to gather it inward. The cloud started to fall toward its own center, slowly at first, and then a little faster. As it gathered, it began to spin, and as it spun, it flattened into a wide turning disk, like cream stirred softly into coffee. At the very center, the material grew dense and warm. That warm center would one day become our sun. The leftover dust in the spinning disk would become everything else: the planets, the moons, the comets, and the quiet spaces between them. It is a strange and beautiful thought. Everything around us was once a single soft cloud, drifting in the dark with no shape and no name. The ground beneath your feet, the water in the oceans, the iron in your blood, all of it was once part of that gentle, turning haze. Nothing was in a hurry. The whole story began with a cloud, slowly remembering how to fall. Our star holds almost everything. When we picture the solar system, we tend to picture the planets. But the truth is that the sun is nearly the whole of it. More than 99% of all the material in the solar system lives inside the sun. Every planet, every moon, every comet and asteroid together makes up only the smallest fraction of what remains. The sun is a vast ball of glowing gas, mostly hydrogen and helium, so large that more than 1 million Earths could fit inside it. It is not solid. You could never stand upon it. It is light and heat and pressure, held together by its own enormous gravity, turning slowly in the dark. And it is, in the gentlest sense, an ordinary star. Among the countless stars in our galaxy, the sun is middle-aged and middle-sized. Not the brightest, not the largest, simply steady. It has shone for around 4.5 billion years, and it will go on shining for billions more. There is something quietly comforting in that. The same warmth that touches your skin on a summer afternoon has been pouring out into space, calm and constant, since long before the first living thing drew breath. Almost everything we know orbits a single, patient star. Sunlight is always a little older than it seems. The light that warms our world does not arrive instantly. It travels across space at the fastest speed there is, and even so, it takes about 8 minutes to cross the distance from the sun to the Earth. This means we never quite see the sun as it is right now. We see it as it was 8 minutes ago. If the sun were ever to simply vanish, we would carry on in full daylight for another 8 gentle minutes before the sky ever knew. The light itself begins deep in the sun's core, where it is made. But the journey out from that core is astonishingly slow. A single particle of light can take many thousands of years to wander its way to the surface, bouncing and drifting through the dense layers above it. Only then does it leap across space to reach us in minutes. So the warmth on your face tonight is the end of a very long voyage. It was made in the heart of a star, wandered for an age in the dark, and then crossed the emptiness just to arrive here. Light is patient. It has been traveling toward you for longer than you can imagine. The closest world to the Sun is a small, scorched stone. Mercury is the smallest of the planets, and it orbits nearest to the Sun's fire. From its surface, the Sun would loom large and fierce in a black, airless sky. It is a world without weather, without wind, without a single soft cloud to soften the light. You might expect the closest planet to the Sun to be the hottest. But Mercury keeps a stranger secret. It has almost no atmosphere to hold warmth in, so its heat escapes the moment the Sun goes down. In the daylight, its surface can grow hot enough to melt lead. In the long night, it falls to far below freezing. Few places in the solar system swing so wildly between fire and ice. Mercury moves quickly too, racing around the Sun in only 88 days. A single year there is shorter than 3 of our months. Yet it turns on its own axis very slowly, so its days are long and strange. Its face is covered in craters, scars left by countless impacts over billions of years. With no wind and no rain to wear them away, those marks simply remain, exactly as they fell. Mercury is a quiet keeper of old wounds, circling close to the warmth, remembering everything that ever struck it. The next world out is wrapped in a golden veil. Venus is almost the twin of Earth in size, and from a distance it is beautiful, a smooth, pale globe glowing softly in the sunlight. For a long time, people imagined it might be a gentle, cloud-covered world, perhaps even a warm and watery one. The truth turned out to be far stranger. Beneath those bright clouds, Venus is the hottest planet in the entire solar system, hotter even than Mercury, which sits closer to the Sun. Its thick air is heavy with carbon dioxide, and it traps the heat completely, never letting it escape. The surface is hot enough to melt many metals, and it never cools, day or night. The air itself is crushing. If you could stand on the surface, the weight of that atmosphere would press down like the deep of an ocean, and the planet turns in a slow and backward way, so that on Venus, the Sun would rise in the west and set in the east, drifting across the sky over many of our weeks. It is a world of soft golden cloud above and quiet, baking stone below. From far away, Venus shines as the brightest point in our evening sky, the gentle evening star, calm and lovely, hiding its fierce heart behind a veil of light. And then, there is home. The third world from the Sun is a small blue sphere, wrapped in white cloud and ringed with thin air. From space, it looks impossibly delicate, a soft marble of ocean and land, turning slowly against the black. What makes Earth so rare is not that it is large or grand. It is that it sits in a gentle place. It orbits at just the right distance from the Sun, where water can rest as a liquid, not boiled away, not frozen solid, but flowing in rivers and rain and vast quiet seas. As far as we have ever found, in all the worlds we have searched, this is the only one that holds life. From the distant edge of the solar system, a passing spacecraft once turned to take a final photograph of the Earth. In that image, our entire world is nothing more than a single pale dot, a tiny point of light suspended in a sunbeam. Every person who has ever lived, every story ever told, all of it has happened on that one small dot. It is a humbling and a peaceful thought. Tonight, you are resting on a gentle blue world, turning quietly through space, carrying its single fragile spark of life softly through the dark. Earth does not travel alone. A single gray companion drifts beside us, our moon, the brightest and most familiar light in the night sky. It is close enough to see in detail, its pale face marked with bright highlands and smooth dark plains. Long ago, those dark plains were seas of molten rock. They cooled and hardened into the calm, shadowed patches we still see when we look up. The moon has no air to blur its surface, so every footprint left there by the few who walked upon it remains untouched, exactly as it was. The moon also moves in a gentle rhythm with the Earth. It turns on its axis in just the same time it takes to circle us, and so it always shows us the very same face. The far side, hidden from us, was a mystery until spacecraft finally drifted around to see it, and slowly, Patiently, the moon is drifting away from us, a tiny distance each year. For now, though, it remains close, pulling softly on our oceans, lifting the tides, lighting the dark. It is a steady, quiet presence, the nightlight of our world, keeping us company as we sleep. Beyond the Earth lies a small, rust-red world. Mars is colder and drier than our planet, a desert of reddish dust and stone. Its color comes from iron in its soil, slowly rusted over billions of years, so that the whole world wears a soft, pale red. Yet Mars feels strangely familiar. It has seasons, as we do. It has pale clouds and morning frost, and white caps of ice at its poles that grow and shrink through its long year. It has towering volcanoes, including the largest known mountain in the solar system, so wide its base could cover an entire country. And it has a great canyon, so long it would stretch across a continent. Long ago, Mars may have been gentler. There are dry riverbeds carved into its surface, and the soft outlines of ancient lakes and shorelines. It seems that water once flowed there, under a thicker sky, in a warmer and wetter age. Slowly, over ages, that air thinned and the water vanished, and Mars became the quiet desert it is today. 2 tiny moons circle it, little more than captured rocks, drifting close above its red plains. Mars is a still and patient world, a frozen desert beneath a soft pink sky, holding the faint memory of rivers that ran long ago. Between Mars and the giant planets lies a wide, scattered ring. We call it the asteroid belt, a great loop of rocky fragments, circling the sun in the gap between the small worlds and the large ones. There are countless pieces here, from tumbling boulders to bodies hundreds of miles across. It is tempting to picture it as a crowded, dangerous place, the rocks packed close and jostling together. The truth is far quieter. The belt is so vast, and its pieces so spread out, that if you stood upon one asteroid, you would likely see nothing but empty space in every direction. Spacecraft pass straight through it with ease. All these fragments together would not even add up to a single small planet. In fact, their combined weight is less than that of our moon. They are most likely the leftover building blocks of a world that never quite came together, gently prevented, long ago, by the pull of giant Jupiter nearby. The largest body in the belt is round enough to be called a dwarf planet, a small icy rock world of its own. The rest simply drift, slowly turning, catching the distant sunlight. The asteroid belt is not a wall or a hazard. It is a soft, scattered field of ancient stone, quietly orbiting in the gap. Now we cross into the realm of the giants. Jupiter is the largest planet by far, so enormous that all the other planets together could fit inside it, with room to spare. It is a world without a solid surface, a vast ball of swirling gas, mostly hydrogen and helium, the very same stuff as the sun. Its face is wrapped in beautiful bands of cloud, soft stripes of cream and gold and brown, drawn out by its rapid spin. For all its size, Jupiter turns faster than any other planet, completing a full day in only about 10 hours. Those racing clouds form endless gentle swirls and ribbons across its face, and within them turns its most famous feature, the Great Red Spot. It is a storm, but a storm unlike any on Earth. It is wider than our entire planet, a slow, deep whirl of cloud that has been turning for centuries, perhaps far longer. It does not arrive and pass like our storms do. It simply endures, calmly spinning, year after year after year. Jupiter also holds a powerful, invisible field around it, the strongest of any planet. It acts almost like a great shield, drawing in stray comets and debris, quietly guarding the inner worlds. The giant turns slowly in the dark, vast and patient, with its ancient storm still gently spinning. Jupiter does not travel alone. It is circled by a great family of moons. Dozens upon dozens of them orbit the giant, from tiny captured rocks to worlds as large as planets. 4 of them are large and bright, and they have been watched from Earth for centuries. The first is a world of fire. It is the most volcanic place in the entire solar system, its surface forever reshaped by erupting molten rock, painted in soft yellows and oranges. Squeezed and pulled by Jupiter's gravity, it can never rest, never cool, never grow still. The second is a world of ice. Beneath its smooth, cracked, frozen shell, Scientists believe there lies a vast ocean of liquid water, perhaps more water than all the oceans of Earth combined. It is one of the most hopeful places we know to look for life beyond our world. The third is the largest moon in the entire solar system, larger even than the planet Mercury. And the fourth is an ancient, heavily cratered world, dark and quiet, its surface unchanged for billions of years. Together these moons drift around their giant in a slow and graceful dance, small worlds of fire and ice, circling the largest planet in steady, patient rings. Beyond Jupiter floats the most beautiful world of all. Saturn is the second of the giant planets, another vast ball of soft, pale gas. But it is not the planet itself that takes the breath away. It is the rings. Saturn is encircled by a wide, shining system of rings, so bright and so perfect that they seem almost unreal. They are made of countless pieces of ice and rock, from grains as small as dust to chunks as large as houses, each one a tiny moon in its own orbit. Together, they form smooth, glittering bands of light that stretch far out into space. And yet, for all their width, the rings are astonishingly thin. They spread across a distance many times the width of the Earth, but they are only a fraction of a mile deep. Seen edge-on, they nearly disappear, fading to a thin, bright line. The rings may also be young, in the slow time of the solar system, and they may not last forever. Slowly, gently, their ice is drifting down toward the planet. We may simply be living in the brief age when Saturn wears its crown. Saturn turns softly in the dark, wrapped in pale gold, encircled by a halo of quiet, glittering ice. Saturn, too, is surrounded by a great company of moons, more than 100 of them, drifting among and beyond the rings. 2 of them, in particular, are among the most fascinating worlds we know. The largest is wrapped in a thick, golden haze, the only moon in the solar system with a true, dense atmosphere of its own. Beneath that haze lies a strange and beautiful land, with rivers, rainfall, and wide, still lakes. But here it is far too cold for water. Instead, the rain and the seas are made of liquid methane, falling softly from orange clouds onto a frozen shore. It is an eerie mirror of Earth, sketched entirely in ice and chemistry. The other is small, bright, and covered in clean white ice. From great cracks near its south pole, tall fountains of water vapor and ice spray gently out into space, feeding one of Saturn's faint outer rings. And beneath its frozen shell, like the ice moon of Jupiter, there appears to be a hidden ocean of liquid water. These are quiet, distant worlds, lit only by a faint and far-off sun, yet they hide rivers and oceans and gentle drifting snow. Around the ringed giant, in the deep cold, whole small worlds are softly raining and snowing in the dark. Far beyond Saturn drifts a pale, tilted world. Uranus is the first of the ice giants, smaller than Jupiter and Saturn, and made not of simple gas, but of cold, slushy ices of water and other chemicals. Its soft blue-green color comes from a faint gas in its upper clouds, which gently scatters the light. But the strangest thing about Uranus is the way it lies. Nearly every other planet spins more or less upright as it orbits the Sun, like a spinning top. Uranus, instead, is tipped completely onto its side. It rolls around the Sun like a ball, its poles where you would expect its middle to be. Long ago, it seems, some great collision knocked it over, and it has rolled along ever since. Because of this strange tilt, its seasons are extreme and slow. Each pole spends decades bathed in continuous sunlight, and then decades in continuous, gentle dark. Uranus is calm and pale and quiet, far from the Sun's warmth, where daylight is only a soft glow. It has faint, thin rings of its own, and a family of small moons turning with it. It rolls slowly through the cold, a tranquil blue-green world, drifting on its side through the long, dim outer dark. At the very edge of the planets lies the deepest blue world of all. Neptune is the most distant planet from the Sun, the second of the ice giants, and the farthest of the great spheres. It is so far away that it cannot be seen with the unaided eye, and it was the first planet found not by looking, but by careful prediction. Out here, the Sun is only a bright and distant point, and its warmth is faint. Yet Neptune is far from still. It is one of the windiest places in the entire solar system. with gales that race through its clouds faster than the speed of sound, the fastest winds ever measured on any planet. Its color is a rich, deep blue, even more vivid than that of Uranus, and pale white clouds drift high above its surface, streaking across that endless ocean of blue. Neptune carries a single large moon that moves in a strange and lonely way. It orbits backward against the planet's spin, suggesting it was captured long ago from somewhere far out in the dark. Neptune is the last of the great worlds, the final lantern before the deep cold begins. It turns slowly, far from the light, a deep and quiet blue at the edge of the planets. Beyond Neptune, the solar system does not simply end. The 8 great planets give way to a realm of smaller, icier worlds, and the most famous of these is Pluto. For most of the last century, Pluto was counted as the 9th planet. Then, as we found more and more small worlds like it, it was gently reclassified as a dwarf planet. Not diminished, simply understood a little better. Pluto is a small frozen world, far smaller than our moon, drifting through the cold at the fringe of the solar system. For a long time it was only a faint and fuzzy dot, too distant to truly see. Then, not long ago, a single spacecraft crossed the vast emptiness and flew past it, sending home the first clear pictures of its face. What it found was unexpectedly lovely. Pluto has mountains of frozen ice, smooth plains, and a great pale region shaped, by chance, almost exactly like a gentle heart. It was no dead grey rock, but a soft and intricate little world, and Pluto is not alone out there. Other dwarf worlds drift in the same cold reaches, each one small, distant, and patient. They are the quiet keepers of the outer dark, circling so far away that a single one of their years lasts longer than a human lifetime. Pluto belongs to a vast and frozen frontier. Beyond Neptune lies a wide, distant ring of icy bodies, circling far out in the cold. We call it the Kuiper Belt, and it is something like the asteroid belt, but far larger, far colder, and made not of rock but of ice. Out here, the sun is so distant that it gives almost no warmth. The bodies of the Kuiper Belt are frozen leftovers from the birth of the solar system, fragments of ice and dust that never gathered into a planet. They have drifted, quietly preserved in the deep cold, for billions of years, scarcely changed since the very beginning. Pluto is simply one of the larger members of this frozen family. There are countless others, most of them small, dark, and too faint to easily see. They move so slowly, so far out, that they take hundreds of years to circle the sun even once. The Kuiper Belt is a soft, scattered halo at the edge of the known worlds. It is silent and dim and almost untouched, a great ring of ancient ice, drifting patiently in the dark, holding the frozen memory of how everything began. From this frozen edge, every now and then, a quiet visitor falls inward. Comets are small bodies of ice and dust, born in the cold outer reaches. For most of their long lives they drift far from the sun, dark and frozen and still. But sometimes, gently, one is nudged onto a path that carries it inward, toward the warmth. As a comet draws closer to the sun, something beautiful happens. Its ice begins to warm and turns softly to vapor, releasing dust and gas in a glowing cloud around it. The sun's light and wind then push that material outward, streaming it into a long, faint tail that always points away from the sun. That is the comet's tail we sometimes see drawn across the night sky. Not a streak of fire, but a soft, glowing veil of dust and ice, lit gently by sunlight. Some comets return on long, faithful loops, appearing every few decades or every few centuries, like quiet clockwork. When their visit is done, they swing slowly back out toward the cold, their tails fading behind them, to rest again in the dark for 100 human lifetimes. Comets are gentle wanderers, frozen travelers from the edge, drifting in to catch the light, and then drifting softly home. Far beyond even the Kuiper Belt lies the most distant edge of all. Surrounding the entire solar system, we believe, is a vast and ghostly shell of icy bodies, the Oort Cloud. It is so far away, and its objects so faint, that we have never directly seen it. We know it mostly by the comets that fall inward from it. Unlike the flat rings of the asteroid and Kuiper belts, The Oort Cloud is thought to wrap around the solar system in every direction, like a great, soft sphere of ice enclosing everything within. It may hold many trillions of frozen bodies, each one drifting slowly through the deep, dark cold. The distances here are almost beyond imagining. The outer edge of the Oort Cloud may lie so far from the sun that light itself, the fastest thing there is, would take more than a year to cross from one to the other. Out there, the sun is no longer a warm disk in the sky. It is simply one more star among many. This is the true edge of the sun's family, a distant, quiet shell of ice, marking where our solar system gently fades into the space between the stars. It is silent and unimaginably vast, and almost perfectly still. There is another way to ask where the solar system ends, not where its ice runs out, but where the sun's reach finally fades. The sun does more than shine. It also breathes outward, a constant, gentle stream of particles in every direction, a soft wind blowing out into space. This solar wind carves out an enormous bubble around the sun and all its planets, holding back the thin gas that drifts between the stars. Inside this bubble, we are within the sun's domain. At its distant edge, the solar wind finally grows too weak to push any farther, and it meets the space beyond. Only a few spacecraft, launched decades ago, have ever traveled far enough to cross that boundary. After journeying for many years, out past all the planets, they slipped quietly through the edge of the bubble and into the space between the stars. They are still drifting outward now, carrying small golden records of our world, in case anyone, someday, should ever find them. They will travel on, silently, for millions of years. It is a gentle thought to rest on, that our quiet corner of space has already sent a few small, patient travelers out into the dark, drifting softly toward the distant stars. It is worth pausing, just for a moment, on how much empty space all of this contains. We draw the solar system as a tidy picture, the planets close together in a neat row. The truth is that it is almost entirely soft, open emptiness. The distances are gentle and enormous. Sunlight, which reaches Earth in about 8 minutes, takes hours to drift all the way out to the most distant planets. Between each world lies a vast gulf of quiet, dark space, far wider than the worlds themselves. If the sun were shrunk to the size of a single small ball, the Earth would be a grain of sand many steps away, and the outer planets would be tiny specks scattered across an entire field. Almost all of it, in between, would be nothing at all, just calm, open space. There is something deeply restful in that emptiness. The solar system is not crowded or busy. It is mostly silence and softness and long, patient distance. A few small worlds, a single warm star, and a great, gentle ocean of dark holding them all loosely together, in no hurry at all. And through all that emptiness, everything moves in slow and faithful circles. Every planet, every moon, every drifting comet follows its own quiet path around the sun, held gently in place by gravity. Nothing is steered, nothing is pushed. They simply fall, endlessly, around the warmth at the center. The inner worlds move quickly, racing around the sun in months or a few short years. The outer worlds move slowly, drifting through orbits so wide that a single one of their years can last longer than all of recorded history. Out at the cold edge, a world may circle the sun only a handful of times since the first humans ever looked up. Yet it all turns together, smoothly, like the gentlest of clockwork. The planets have traced these same soft loops for billions of years, and they will trace them for billions more, long after tonight is forgotten. There is no sound to any of it, no engine, no effort, no haste. Just worlds turning quietly in the dark, kept company by their moons, drifting in long and graceful circles around a single patient star. The whole solar system is a slow and silent dance, and it has never once grown tired. There are smaller wonders woven through all of this too, quiet details that are easy to overlook, yet just as beautiful as the planets themselves. Think again of how it all took shape. When the young sun first began to shine, it was surrounded by that wide, turning disk of gas and dust. Close to the sun, where it was warm, only metal and rock could hold together against the heat. And so the inner worlds, Mercury, Venus, Earth and Mars, were built from stone and iron, small and dense and solid. Far from the sun, where it was cold, ice could form as well, and there was far more of it. Out there, the growing worlds gathered enormous amounts of ice and gas, swelling into the giants we know today. So the very shape of our solar system, small worlds within and giant worlds beyond, was decided long ago, simply by how warm it was at each gentle distance from the sun. Return your thoughts, for a moment, to the sun itself, and imagine drifting down through its glowing layers. At its very heart lies the core, where the sun makes its light and heat under pressures we can barely picture. Around that core lie deep, slow layers through which energy drifts upward over ages. Above them is the surface we see, the bright face of the sun, simmering gently like the top of something warm on a stove. And beyond even that lies the sun's faint outer atmosphere, a soft crown of light called the corona, so delicate that we usually cannot see it at all. Only when the moon slips perfectly in front of the sun, during an eclipse, does that pale crown appear, glowing softly around the darkened disk. On the surface of the sun, dark patches sometimes drift into view. We call them sunspots, and they are simply cooler areas, a little dimmer than the brilliant gold around them, shaped by the sun's tangled magnetic fields. They are not truly dark, only darker by comparison, still brighter than almost anything else. These spots come and go in a slow, steady rhythm. Over roughly 11 years, the sun grows more active and then calms again, more spotted and then smoother, breathing in and out across the decades. It is a gentle, patient cycle, far older than anyone alive, quietly turning in the background of every life that has ever been lived. The sun does more than shine, as well. It breathes outward, a constant, soft stream of tiny particles in every direction. A wind made not of air, but of pieces of the sun itself. This solar wind drifts out past all the planets, shaping the tails of comets and brushing gently against every world it meets. It is invisible and silent and always blowing, a quiet breath from our star, washing endlessly over the solar system. When that soft wind reaches the Earth, it gives us one of the loveliest sights in all the sky. Our planet is wrapped in an invisible magnetic field, and that field guides the sun's particles toward the poles, high in the north and the south. There, they meet the thin upper air and set it gently glowing, soft curtains of green and red and violet light rippling slowly across the polar night. We call them the auroras. They are sunlight and air and magnetism, woven together into a quiet, shifting glow, dancing silently above the frozen ends of our world. That same magnetic field does something even more important, and it does it without a sound. It forms a vast, unseen shield around the whole Earth, deep and wide, generated by the slow churning of molten iron far beneath our feet. This shield turns the sun's wind gently aside, guarding our air and our oceans, holding our world safe and soft within it. We never see it, and we never feel it. Yet every moment of your life, it has been there, quietly keeping the harshness of space at a distance, like a calm hand held always over the Earth. The Earth keeps another gentle secret in the way it leans. Our planet does not sit perfectly upright as it circles the sun. It tilts, just a little, always leaning the same way. And that small, steady tilt is the reason for the seasons. As the Earth drifts around the sun, first one half of the world leans toward the light, and then, half a year later, the other. It is not that we move closer to the sun or farther away. It is only this gentle lean, turning summer slowly into winter, and back again, year after year, in a soft and faithful rhythm. The moon, too, touches our world in a quiet, constant way. Its gentle gravity reaches across the empty space between us and pulls, ever so softly, on our oceans. That pull draws the water into a gentle swell, and as the Earth turns beneath it, the seas rise and fall in slow, breathing tides. Twice each day, the water creeps up the shore and slips away again, in a rhythm set entirely by the moon. Every tide that has ever turned, on every shore in the world, has been the soft and patient pull of our companion in the sky. And the moon itself was likely born from a moment of great drama, long ago, though it rests so peacefully now. In the early days of the solar system, it seems, a young world about the size of Mars, drifted into the newly formed Earth. The collision was immense, and it flung a great cloud of molten rock out into space around our planet. Slowly, gently, that ring of debris gathered itself together under its own gravity, cooling and rounding into the moon we know. So the calm grey light that watches over your nights was born from one of the most violent moments our world has ever known, settled now into something serene. Cast your thoughts back outward for a while, to the small red world of Mars and its quiet, towering landscapes. Rising from its surface is the tallest known volcano in the whole solar system, so vast and so gently sloped that if you stood upon it, you might never know you had climbed a mountain at all. Its base alone could cover an entire country, and carved across the planet nearby is an enormous canyon system, so long it would stretch across a continent, and so deep it makes the grandest canyons of Earth seem small. These great features formed slowly, over unimaginable ages, and now they simply rest in the thin red air, silent and still, beneath the pale pink Martian sky. Back among the drifting stones of the asteroid belt, one body stands gently apart from the rest. It is round, and large enough to be called a small world of its own, a dwarf planet, the biggest object in the entire belt. Beneath its dusty surface, there may be ancient ice, and perhaps even briny water, locked away in the cold. It turns slowly among the scattered rubble, the quiet giant of that broken ring, a single rounded world among countless tumbling stones. Even the great planet Jupiter holds a soft surprise. Like Saturn, it wears a set of rings, but Jupiter's are faint and thin, made of fine dark dust rather than bright ice. So delicate, they were not even noticed until a spacecraft drifted close, and far below its swirling clouds, Jupiter changes slowly with depth. The gas grows thicker and warmer the deeper you go, pressing in until, in the planet's hidden heart, matter behaves in strange and wondrous ways we can scarcely imagine. From the outside, though, it shows none of this. It simply turns, calm and banded and golden, with its quiet storm still gently spinning. At Saturn's far north pole, there waits one of the strangest and most beautiful sights in the solar system. The clouds there have arranged themselves, somehow, into the shape of a perfect six-sided figure, a vast, slow-turning hexagon, large enough to swallow several Earths. It is simply a pattern in the winds, a great river of cloud, flowing in 6 straight lines, turning endlessly around the pole. No one painted it, and nothing holds it in place but the gentle physics of moving air. It has been turning there, quietly, for as long as we have watched. Saturn's rings hold their own quiet wonders when you look closely. They are not a single smooth band, but many fine rings set side by side, with dark, empty gaps drawn cleanly between them. And tucked among them drift tiny moons, so small they are easy to miss. These little moons shepherd the ice along, their gentle gravity keeping the edges of the rings sharp and neat, like quiet keepers tending a vast field of glittering snow. The whole system turns together in perfect silence, every grain of ice tracing its own faithful path. Far out beyond Neptune, Pluto is not the only small world drifting in the cold. There are other dwarf worlds out there, each one distant and dim and patient. One is a far-off body so massive it once led us to rethink what a planet even is. Another is a strange, stretched world that spins so quickly it has been pulled into an oval shape, with its own slender ring around it. They drift in the deep dark at the fringe of the Sun's family, so far away that a single one of their slow years can outlast many human lifetimes. They are the quiet, outermost wanderers, circling faithfully where the sunlight is only a faint and distant gleam. From those frozen reaches, comets sometimes fall gently inward toward the warmth. Some come from the ring of ice beyond Neptune and return on shorter, faithful loops. Others fall from the vast and distant shell at the very edge of the solar system, taking thousands of years to make a single pass. A few famous comets return like clockwork, swinging close roughly once in a human lifetime, so that a person might see the same comet as a child and again as they grow old. Each one is a quiet visitor from the cold, drifting in to glow softly in our sky, and then drifting patiently home again. Sometimes the Earth drifts through the faint trail of dust a comet has left behind, and the sky gives us a gentle gift. Those tiny grains of comet dust meet our air and burn away in soft, brief streaks of light, the shooting stars we sometimes watch for on clear, dark nights. When the Earth passes through a richer trail, many appear over a single night, a quiet shower of falling light. They are nothing more than specks of ancient dust, smaller than grains of sand, ending their long journey in a final, gentle glow high above us. There is an even softer light that the dust of the solar system gives. Scattered all through the space between the planets is a faint haze of fine dust, drifting in the plane where the worlds orbit. On the darkest, clearest nights, far from any city, sunlight catching that dust can form a pale, ghostly glow, rising softly from the horizon in a gentle cone of light. It is one of the faintest sights in all the sky, easy to miss, easy to mistake for the last trace of dusk. Yet it is sunlight itself, glimmering quietly off the dust of our own solar system, drawn out along the path of the planets. There may even be one more great world out there, hidden in the dark, that we have not yet found. Far beyond the known planets, a handful of distant icy bodies seem to drift in a strange, shared pattern, as though something large and unseen were gently herding them. Some believe this hints at another planet, far out in the cold, slow and dim and waiting to be discovered. We have searched, and not yet found it. But it is a lovely thought to rest on, that our familiar solar system may still be keeping one quiet secret, a distant world drifting patiently in the dark, waiting to be known. Cast your thoughts, gently, toward the far future of the sun. For now it shines steadily, warm and calm, as it has for billions of years. But slowly, over billions more, it will change. In time it will swell, growing into a vast and gentle red giant, glowing softly over the inner worlds. And later still, it will let its outer layers drift away into space, a soft and glowing veil, leaving behind only its small, warm core, cooling slowly in the quiet for ages and ages. This is the calm and distant fate of every star like ours. It is unimaginably far away, far beyond any life we will ever know, a slow and peaceful ending, written gently into the deep future. Out in the dark, meanwhile, our small explorers drift onward. Long ago, we sent a pair of spacecraft to journey past the great planets, and they have since traveled beyond the edge of the sun's reach, out into the space between the stars. They carry with them a small golden record, holding sounds and pictures from our world, music and greetings and the gentle noises of life on Earth. In case some distant traveler should ever find them, they will drift on, silent and patient, for many thousands of years before they pass anywhere near another star. Even now, as you rest, those small messengers are still moving softly outward, carrying a quiet hello from our world into the dark. And our whole solar system, in turn, is gently on the move. The sun does not sit still. Together with all its planets and moons and drifting ice, it sweeps slowly through the vast spiral of the Milky Way, circling the distant center of our galaxy. The single trip around takes so long that the sun has made only a handful of them in its entire life. We are not standing still in space. We are riding softly along with our star, carried in a slow and graceful arc through an ocean of countless other suns. Long before anyone understood what the planets truly were, people watched them move. Most of the lights in the night sky hold their places, turning together as the whole sky wheels overhead. But a handful of them wander. Night after night, they drift slowly against the fixed stars, tracing their own quiet paths. The ancient sky watchers noticed these wanderers and followed them and named them. They could not have known they were looking at other worlds, distant globes of rock and gas, circling the same sun. They only knew that these few gentle lights moved with a will of their own. And so, for thousands of years, the planets were simply the wanderers of the night, watched over by patient eyes, long before we ever knew their names. It was only when the first telescopes were lifted to the sky that those wanderers became worlds. For most of history, the eye alone could see them as nothing more than bright points of light. Then, a little over 4 centuries ago, someone turned a simple glass to the heavens, and everything changed. Suddenly the moon had mountains and shadowed valleys. Suddenly Jupiter had its own tiny moons, circling it like a small solar system. Suddenly Venus showed soft phases, waxing and waning like our moon. Each new sight gently rewrote what the sky was. The planets were no longer mere lights, but places, real worlds, with surfaces and companions and weather. And it had all been waiting up there, quietly, for someone to simply look more closely. Learning how far away these worlds lie was a slower and gentler puzzle. The planets give no sign of their distance to the naked eye. A small light might be near and faint, or vast and far away. Patiently, over generations, careful watchers found ways to measure those great gulfs of space. They watched how a planet's position seemed to shift, ever so slightly, when seen from different places on Earth. They timed the slow passage of one world across the face of the Sun. Little by little, the true scale of the solar system revealed itself, far larger than anyone had imagined. The numbers were almost too big to feel. Yet they came from nothing more than patience and careful watching, and the quiet wish to understand how far the light had traveled. Return for a while to little Mercury, closest to the Sun, and consider a secret it keeps in shadow. You might think that a world so near the Sun would hold no ice at all, and across most of its surface, that is true. Yet at its poles lie deep craters whose floors never once see the sunlight. There, in permanent shadow, it stays bitterly cold, even as the rest of the planet bakes. And in those frozen, hidden hollows, there appears to be ice, ancient water ice, tucked away in the dark. It is a gentle paradox. On the planet nearest the Sun's fire, in the few places the light can never reach, there is frost that has rested undisturbed for ages. Deep inside Mercury lies another quiet surprise. For so small a world, it is remarkably heavy, far denser than it looks. The reason is hidden at its center. Mercury holds an enormous core of iron, far larger, in proportion, than the core of any other planet. Beneath its thin, rocky shell, most of the world is metal. Some great event in its distant past may have stripped away its outer layers, leaving behind this dense iron heart. So the small scorched world circling closest to the Sun is, in truth, mostly a great ball of iron, wrapped in a thin coat of stone, turning slowly in the heat. A single day on Mercury is one of the strangest things in the solar system. The little world turns on its axis very slowly and races around the Sun very quickly, and the two motions weave together in an unhurried dance. The result is that from sunrise to sunrise on Mercury takes longer than a Mercury year, and from certain places on its surface, the Sun does something almost dreamlike. It rises, then seems to pause, and slips backward a little, before continuing on its way. The sky moves gently and slowly, and not quite as it does anywhere else. Time itself seems to drift differently on that small, sunlit world. Venus keeps a similar slow secret in the way it turns. Of all the planets, Venus spins the most gently, taking longer to turn once than to travel all the way around the Sun. On Venus, in a quiet sense, the day is longer than the year, and it turns the wrong way, slowly and backward, so its sun would drift from west to east. If you could stand beneath those thick golden clouds and wait, you would wait many months for a single sunrise. Everything on Venus moves at its own unhurried pace, slower than anywhere else, turning softly the wrong way in the warm and golden gloom. Because Venus hides its surface beneath endless cloud, we had to find another way to see it. Ordinary light cannot pierce that thick veil. So a spacecraft was sent to map the planet using radar, gently bouncing signals off the ground far below and listening for the echoes. Slowly, patch by patch, the hidden surface took shape. Beneath the clouds lies a world of broad volcanic plains, of mountains and rolling lava, shaped by fire over the ages. Its surface seems surprisingly young and smooth, perhaps still gently reshaped by volcanoes even now. A whole landscape, never once seen by eye, drawn out quietly from the echoes of unseen signals in the dark. Think for a moment of the soft monthly rhythm of our own moon. As it circles the Earth, the sunlight falls upon it from changing angles, and so its face seems to grow and shrink. It begins as a thin, delicate crescent in the evening sky. Slowly it fills, night by night, into a bright and rounded full moon. Then, just as slowly, it fades again, thinning back to a sliver, and for a night or two it vanishes entirely into the dark. This gentle cycle has measured out the months since long before there were calendars. The moon swells and softens in a quiet, faithful rhythm, the oldest clock in the human sky. Now and then, the sun, the moon, and the earth fall into a perfect line, and the sky offers something rare. By a quiet coincidence, the moon and the sun appear almost exactly the same size in our sky, and so, when the moon passes directly in front of the sun, it can cover it completely. The day softly darkens. A gentle twilight falls in the middle of the afternoon, and around the hidden sun appears its faint, glowing crown of light. The air grows cool and still, and for a few quiet minutes, day and night seem to gently trade places. It is one of the most beautiful alignments the sky ever gives, a soft and fleeting shadow drifting across the world. The moon, too, sometimes slips into shadow. When the Earth passes directly between the sun and the moon, our planet's shadow falls gently across the moon's face. But the moon does not simply vanish into black. A little sunlight bends softly through the edges of Earth's atmosphere and falls upon the moon, painting it a deep and gentle red. For an hour or two, the full moon glows a soft, coppery color, hanging quietly in the night. It is the light of every sunrise and sunset on Earth, all at once, cast gently onto the moon, a quiet rosy shadow, drifting silently across our companion in the dark. The moon holds a few more soft secrets for those who watch closely. It keeps the same face turned toward us, yet it does not hold perfectly still. It gently nods and sways, just a little, as it travels, so that over time we glimpse a sliver around its edges and see a touch more than half of it. The rest, the far side, stayed hidden from all eyes until spacecraft drifted around to look. And deep within the moon, very rarely, there are faint, gentle tremors, soft moonquakes that ripple quietly through its still and silent body. Even our calm gray companion is not entirely motionless. It breathes in the slowest and softest of ways. Cast your thoughts back to Mars and to the great storms that sometimes sweep across it. The Martian air is thin, far thinner than ours, yet it still carries dust, and sometimes the winds rise. Now and then, a dust storm begins in one region and slowly spreads, growing and growing, until it wraps the entire planet in a soft, reddish haze. For weeks, the whole world is veiled, its surface hidden beneath a gentle blanket of drifting dust. Then, slowly, the winds calm, the dust settles, and the red landscape returns to view. These are the largest storms in the solar system, and yet, in that thin air, they are quiet and soft, more like a slow haze than a tempest. Two tiny moons keep Mars company, drifting close above its red plains. They are small and lumpy, more like captured stones than proper worlds, each only a few miles across. The larger one circles so close and so quickly that it crosses the Martian sky several times a day, rising in the west and setting in the east. And it is slowly, gently spiraling inward, drawing a little nearer with each passing age. In the far future, it may break apart, perhaps forming a faint, delicate ring around Mars for a time. The smaller moon drifts the other way, slowly outward, into the dark. Two little stones, keeping quiet watch over the red world below. There is a soft surprise waiting at the end of a Martian day. On Earth, our sunsets glow in warm reds and oranges, while the daytime sky is blue. On Mars, it is gently reversed. Through the day, the dusty sky takes on a soft butterscotch hue. But as the sun sinks toward the horizon, the fine dust scatters the light in such a way that a cool blue glow gathers softly around the setting sun. So on that distant red world, the day fades not in fiery color, but in a quiet, gentle blue. A small, lonely robot has watched many such sunsets, sitting still in the cold, as the blue light slowly dimmed. Return now to mighty Jupiter, and to the great invisible realm that surrounds it. Jupiter is wrapped not only in cloud, but in an enormous magnetic field, the largest and strongest of any planet, reaching far out into space. Where that field meets the streams of particles from the sun and from its own moons, it creates shimmering lights at Jupiter's poles, just as our own auroras dance above the Earth. But Jupiter's auroras are vast and powerful and unending, glowing softly at the top and bottom of the giant world. Far out there, in the cold and the dark, the great planet wears quiet crowns of light, shimmering endlessly above its swirling clouds. One of Jupiter's moons feeds this great glowing realm. It is the little world of fire, the most volcanic place we know, forever erupting under the giant's relentless pull. Those eruptions fling material high above the moon, and much of it escapes into space, spreading out into a vast, faint donut of glowing particles that encircles Jupiter along the moon's path. This soft ring of charged gas hums quietly around the planet, woven into its magnetic field, helping to light those endless polar auroras. So the fire of one small moon drifts out to glow gently around its giant, a quiet, invisible river of light encircling Jupiter in the dark. Among Jupiter's great moons, one stands quietly apart. It is the largest moon in the entire solar system, bigger even than the planet Mercury, a true world in its own right, and it holds something no other moon does, a magnetic field of its own, generated deep within it, wrapping the moon in its own soft, invisible shield. Beneath its icy surface, like several of these outer moons, there appears to lie a hidden ocean of water, locked in the cold and the dark. It is a moon large enough to be a planet, with its own magnetism and its own buried sea, circling the giant in quiet, steady grace. The outermost of Jupiter's great moons is an ancient, peaceful world. Its surface is among the most heavily cratered in the entire solar system, marked by impacts from the earliest days, and changed very little since. There are no volcanoes here, no shifting ground, no signs of restlessness. It is simply old and dark and quiet, a preserved record of the solar system's distant youth. And yet, even here, deep beneath that battered crust, there may rest another hidden ocean, kept liquid in the cold. It is a still and patient moon, a keeper of ancient memory, drifting far out in the soft glow of a distant sun. Drift back now to Saturn, and consider how astonishingly light it is. For all its great size, Saturn is made of such soft, airy material that it is less dense than water itself. If you could find an ocean vast enough, Saturn would float upon it, gently bobbing like an enormous, pale balloon. It is the lightest of all the planets, in this gentle sense, a giant world that weighs surprisingly little for its size. There is something whimsical and soothing in the thought that the great ringed planet, for all its grandeur, is buoyant and soft, and would drift quietly upon the water if ever there were a sea wide enough to hold it. Saturn's rings, seen closely, are full of quiet detail. They are not one smooth band, but thousands upon thousands of fine ringlets, set side by side like the grooves of a record. Here and there, broad dark gaps divide them, swept clean by the gentle pull of small moons. And sometimes, faint shadowy features appear and fade upon the rings, soft spokes that come and go, thought to be fine dust lifted briefly above the ice. The whole vast system turns in perfect silence, each tiny particle tracing its own faithful circle. And slowly, gently, a soft rain of ice drifts down from the rings onto the planet below, the crown quietly returning to the world it adorns. Of all Saturn's moons, the great hazy one is perhaps the most wondrous. It is wrapped in a thick, golden atmosphere, the only moon with truly weather of its own. And it has a cycle, much like our own world's water cycle, only made of methane instead of water. In its frigid cold, methane forms clouds and falls as gentle rain, and gathers into rivers and wide, still lakes upon the surface. There are shorelines there, and river valleys, and seas of liquid methane resting beneath an orange sky. One day, we hope to send a small craft to drift across that haze and explore it. It is an eerie, beautiful echo of Earth, sketched entirely in ice and cold. Another of Saturn's moons, small and bright, does something quietly remarkable. Near its south pole, great cracks run across the ice, and from them rise tall fountains of water vapor and frozen crystals, spraying gently up into space. Much of that icy spray drifts outward and helps to form one of Saturn's faint, wispy outer rings. and it tells us that beneath the frozen shell of this little moon lies a hidden ocean of liquid water, kept gently warm in the dark. A tiny world, far from the sun, is quietly breathing water into space and softly feeding a ring of its own making. Far beyond Saturn lies the pale, tilted world of Uranus, and it is the coldest of all the planets. Though Neptune lies even farther from the sun, Uranus gives off almost no inner warmth of its own, and so its air grows colder than anywhere else among the worlds. It drifts there, calm and dim, a soft blue-green sphere in the deep cold. Circling it are faint, dark rings, and a family of moons named not after gods, as most are, but after characters from old plays and poems. They turn quietly around their frozen, sideways world, the literary moons of the coldest planet, drifting through the long, slow seasons of the outer dark. Neptune holds a special place in our story, for it was found not by looking, but by thinking. Long ago, astronomers noticed that Uranus did not quite follow the path they expected. Something unseen seemed to be tugging gently at it. Working only with mathematics, they predicted where an undiscovered planet must lie to explain the pull. And when telescopes turned to that exact spot in the sky, there it was, Neptune, almost precisely where the numbers said it would be. It is a gentle marvel, a whole world, discovered first in the quiet of calculation, and only then confirmed by the eye. The distant blue planet was found, in a sense, by pure thought. Neptune's largest moon is one of the strangest and loveliest in the solar system. Unlike most moons, it circles its planet backward, against the spin of the world below. This tells us it was most likely born elsewhere, far out in the cold belt of icy bodies, and was captured by Neptune's gravity long ago. Its surface is bitterly cold, among the coldest places we have ever measured, and yet it is not still. Soft geysers there gently vent into the thin air, dusting the frozen ground, and slowly, over ages, this captured moon is spiraling inward, destined one distant day to be drawn apart into a ring, a lovely wanderer, adopted by Neptune, drifting on borrowed time. Out beyond Neptune, little Pluto travels with a companion so large they almost form a pair. Its moon is fully half Pluto's own size, so big that the two do not simply orbit one another in the usual way. Instead, they swing around a shared point in the empty space between them, like two dancers turning while holding hands, and they are locked face to face, each forever showing the other the very same side, so that from one world, the other would hang motionless in the sky, never rising and never setting. They drift together through the deep cold, a quiet double world at the fringe of the sun's family, turning slowly, always facing one another. When a spacecraft finally drifted past Pluto, it found a world far more alive than anyone expected. Across its surface lies a great pale plain shaped like a gentle heart, and within it, vast glaciers of frozen nitrogen flow slowly, like ice rivers in unimaginable cold. There are mountains of water ice, hard as stone in that deep freeze, and a soft blue haze hanging high in its thin atmosphere. For a small, distant, frozen world, it is astonishingly intricate and serene. Pluto is not the dead grey rock we once imagined. It is a quiet, sculpted little world, with a frozen heart, drifting peacefully at the edge of everything. Farther still, beyond even the icy belt, a few lonely worlds drift on enormous, lingering orbits. One of them follows a path so vast and so stretched that a single one of its years lasts many thousands of hours. For most of that immense journey, it wanders far out in the deep cold and the dark, almost beyond the sun's reach, before slowly swinging back toward the light. These are the most distant known wanderers of our solar system, drifting in the great silence at its very edge. They move so slowly, so far away, that since they were found, they have barely shifted at all. Quiet, lonely worlds, circling on the longest and gentlest of paths. Not every small body circles the sun alone in empty space. Some travel in quiet company with the giant planets, gathered in special places where the pull of the sun and the planet gently balance. At these calm points, ahead of and behind a great world along its path, small asteroids can rest, held softly in place for ages. Jupiter shepherds great crowds of them in just this way, drifting along with the giant as it circles. They are like quiet harbors in the emptiness, sheltered pockets of stillness in the turning of the worlds, where small wanderers can settle and travel peacefully alongside something far larger than themselves. Every so often, a true stranger passes through our solar system. Most of what we see out there was born here, from the same ancient cloud as the sun. But once in a great while, something drifts in from far beyond, from another star entirely, crossing the vast dark between the suns. It sweeps quietly past, swinging around our sun, and then continues on its way, back into interstellar space, never to return. For a brief time, our solar system hosts a small traveler from another corner of the galaxy. It is a gentle reminder that we are not sealed away, but open to the wider cosmos, with quiet visitors now and then drifting silently through. It is worth remembering, too, just how alone our sun is in the greater dark. Beyond the most distant edge of the solar system lies an immense gulf of empty space. And then, at last, the nearest other stars. They are so far away that their light, racing across the void, takes years to reach us. To travel there with our fastest craft would take many thousands of years. And yet, on the scale of the galaxy, those stars are our close neighbors, part of the sun's small local family. We drift among them, separated by oceans of darkness, each star a distant warmth, each one perhaps with quiet worlds of its own, turning softly in the night. On the clearest, darkest nights, far from any city lights, a soft band of pale light arches gently across the whole sky. For most of human history, no one knew what it was, only that it glowed there, faint and beautiful, a river of light among the stars. We know now that it is the combined glow of countless distant suns, the great disk of our own galaxy seen from within. When you gaze up at that soft band, you are looking edge-on through the Milky Way, into the gathered light of hundreds of billions of stars. Our own sun is simply one of them, a single quiet light, somewhere along that gentle glowing stream. Let your thoughts drift, gently, to the distant future of all these worlds. For now, the sun shines softly and steadily, and the planets turn in peace. But in billions of years, as the sun slowly ages, it will swell and brighten, growing into a vast red giant. The innermost worlds may be drawn into its warmth and quietly lost. The frozen outer worlds, so cold today, may thaw for a time beneath that great red light, their ancient ice gently warming. And then, at the very end, the sun will softly let go of its outer layers and settle into a small, fading ember, cooling slowly in the dark. The surviving worlds will circle that quiet ember still, in long, patient orbits, for ages beyond imagining. It is a distant ending, and a peaceful one, far beyond anything we will ever see, and it lies so unimaginably far ahead that there is no weight to it at all, only a soft sense of how vast time can be. For now, and for billions of years to come, the sun will go on shining, gentle and warm, and the worlds will go on turning quietly around it. There is nothing to fear in the deep future. There is only the slow, patient turning of the worlds, carrying on softly through ages we can barely begin to imagine, long after this quiet night has passed. Consider, for a quiet moment, how the sun makes its light at all. Deep in its core, under unimaginable pressure and heat, the lightest atoms are gently pressed together, merging into slightly heavier ones. Each time this happens, a tiny whisper of energy is released. It happens countless times every second, all through the sun's vast heart, and together those whispers become the warmth and light that fill the solar system. The sun is not burning, as a fire burns. It is something far gentler and far deeper, a slow, steady joining of the smallest pieces of matter, releasing light that will travel out across the worlds. If you could draw close to the sun's surface, you would find it endlessly, softly in motion. It is not smooth, but covered in countless shifting cells, each one a great bubble of hot gas rising up, spreading out, and sinking back down again. The whole face of the sun simmers gently, like the surface of something warm, forever turning over upon itself. These cells are vast, each one larger than whole countries, yet from afar they blur into a single steady glow. The sun's bright face is alive with quiet movement, a slow and ceaseless simmer, turning gently in the dark. Above that simmering surface, great arcs of glowing gas sometimes rise. Guided by the sun's tangled magnetic fields, streams of bright material loop high above the surface and curve gracefully back down again, like soft, luminous bridges. They can hang there for days, gently shifting before fading away. Some reach so high that many Earths could pass beneath their arches. They are silent and immense and slow, glowing softly against the dark of space. The sun is forever lifting these gentle loops of light from its surface, shaping and reshaping them in quiet, unhurried grace. Now and then, the sun releases a sudden, brighter flash of energy out into space. A burst of light and particles drifts outward, and if it passes the Earth, it can stir our skies. It may brighten the auroras at the poles, or gently ripple through the signals we send across the world. Yet far below, on the quiet surface of the Earth, we feel nothing of it directly. Our thick air and our magnetic shield keep us soft and safe. These are simply the sun breathing a little more strongly for a while, and the Earth, wrapped in its protections, drifting calmly on beneath. Think of the thin, gentle blanket of air that wraps our own world. Compared to the size of the Earth, the atmosphere is astonishingly shallow, a delicate layer clinging to the surface. If the Earth were the size of an apple, the air would be no thicker than its skin, and yet this thin veil holds everything we breathe, carries every cloud and every storm, and softens the harsh light of space into gentle daylight. Above it lies the cold emptiness. Below it, the living world. Our entire sky, all the weather we have ever known, rests within that slender, precious layer of air, held softly against the turning Earth. Within that thin air lies the reason our daytime sky is blue. Sunlight may look white, but it is truly a blend of every color. As it passes through our air, the tiny particles scatter the blue light most of all, spreading it gently across the whole sky. And so, wherever we look by day, we see that scattered blue glow, soft and even, from horizon to horizon. At sunrise and sunset, when the light travels a longer path through the air, the blue is scattered away, and the warm reds and golds remain. The colors of our sky are simply sunlight, gently sorted by the thin air above us. There is a gentle idea that Earth sits in just the right place around the sun. Too close, and it would be far too hot, its water boiled away into vapor. Too far, and it would be locked in ice, frozen and still. But our world orbits in a soft middle band, neither too warm nor too cold, where water can rest as a liquid upon its surface. It is sometimes called the gentle zone, the comfortable distance where seas and rivers can flow. By a quiet good fortune, our planet settled there, in that narrow, hospitable ring of warmth, where the conditions for life could gently take hold. Each world keeps time at its own pace, by the length of its journey around the sun. For little Mercury, racing close, a whole year passes in only about 3 months. For the Earth, a year is the familiar turning of the seasons, but for the distant giants, a single year stretches on and on. Saturn takes about 30 of our years to circle the sun once. Uranus takes over 80. And far-off Neptune takes nearly 165 years to make a single quiet orbit. On Neptune, a person could live a whole long life and never see the planet return to where it began. If you could wander from world to world, your very weight would change with each one. On the small worlds and moons, you would feel light as a feather, drifting and bounding with the gentlest of steps. On our moon, you would weigh but a fraction of what you do at home. On mighty Jupiter, with its enormous pull, you would feel far heavier, pressed down by the great planet's gravity. Each world holds you with its own strength. Gentle here, firm there. The same body would feel feather soft on one world and weighed down on another, simply by how much matter lies beneath your feet. Across the solar system stretches a vast and gentle range of temperatures. Near the sun, the inner worlds bake in fierce heat, hot enough to melt metal upon Venus and Mercury. Out among the giants, the cold deepens until on the distant worlds it falls hundreds of degrees below freezing. From the warm and golden inner planets to the frozen outer dark, there is a soft, sweeping gradient of heat and cold, fading gently with distance from the sun. Everything out there is either bathed in warmth or wrapped in deep, still cold, depending only on how far it drifts from that single central fire. One of the strangest truths of space is its perfect silence. On Earth, Sound travels through the air, carrying every voice and rustle and birdsong to our ears. But between the worlds there is almost no air at all, and without it, sound has nothing to travel through, and so space is utterly quiet. The great storms of Jupiter, the eruptions of distant moons, the slow turning of the rings, all of it unfolds in complete silence. The whole vast machinery of the solar system moves without a sound, in a deep and endless quiet. It is a stillness more complete than any we know down here beneath our gentle, noisy sky. Each of the 4 giant planets wears rings of its own, though only one wears them brightly. Saturn's are the grand and glittering crown we all picture, but Jupiter, Uranus and Neptune each carry rings as well, faint and dark and delicate, easy to miss. They are thin bands of dust and ice, circling quietly, far subtler than Saturn's shining halo. So rings are not Saturn's alone, but a soft feature shared by all the giants, each one girdled by faint loops of debris. Out among the great worlds, gentle rings are the quiet rule, drifting unseen around the giants in the dark. If you tried to count every moon in the solar system, you would find a great and growing crowd. There are hundreds of them, circling the planets, from giant worlds larger than Mercury, down to tiny captured stones only miles across. The giant planets each gather dozens upon dozens, in great families that orbit near and far. Some are round and smooth, with oceans hidden beneath their ice. Others are lumpy little fragments, drifting in distant tilted paths. Together, these countless moons form a vast company of small worlds, turning quietly around their planets, far outnumbering the planets themselves in the gentle dark. Notice, too, how the whole solar system lies nearly flat. The planets do not orbit the sun every which way, scattered through space in all directions. Instead, they travel in roughly the same plane, like marbles rolling on a great, gentle table. This is a memory of the very beginning, when everything formed from that single flat, spinning disk of dust. The planets simply kept the shape of the disk that made them, and so, even now, they move together in one broad, level sheet, circling the sun in a soft, shared plane, the quiet echo of the turning cloud from which they came. Return for a moment to the great rounded body in the asteroid belt, the small dwarf world among the stones. When a spacecraft studied it closely, it found something unexpected: bright, gleaming patches upon its dim gray surface. These turned out to be deposits of salt, left behind where briny water had risen from below and slowly dried away. It hinted that beneath its dusty crust, there may be pockets of salty water, even now. So the largest body of the asteroid belt is not merely a lump of rock and ice, but a small world with a quiet inner life, where brine may still seep gently toward the light. The asteroid belt holds great variety among its tumbling stones. Some are dark and rich in carbon, dark as soot, unchanged since the dawn of the solar system. Others are bright and stony, or hold metal within them. One of the larger ones bears an enormous crater, a great scar from some ancient collision, gouged deep into its side. They come in every size, from drifting dust to bodies hundreds of miles across. The belt is not a single kind of thing, but a scattered museum of the early solar system, each fragment a small relic of how the worlds were built, drifting quietly in the gap. Some small worlds drift on paths that bring them nearer to our own. Among the countless asteroids, a few follow orbits that carry them through Earth's part of the solar system. Patiently, gently, we now watch the sky for them, mapping their paths far in advance, coming to know where each one will be for years to come. It is a quiet kind of stargazing, keeping a soft and careful eye on our neighbors. The vast majority drift harmlessly by, going about their ancient orbits, and the more we watch, the more familiar and known these wanderers become. No longer strangers in the dark, but neighbors whose paths we have learned. Now and then, a small piece of space finds its way gently to the ground. Most fragments that fall toward Earth burn away high in the air, in brief, bright streaks. But some are large enough to survive the journey and come to rest upon the surface as meteorites. When we find them, we hold in our hands something truly ancient, pieces of asteroids, or even of other worlds, older than the Earth itself. They carry within them the story of the solar system's earliest days, frozen and preserved. A meteorite is a quiet messenger from deep space and deep time, a small stone that traveled far to bring us news of the beginning. Far out in the icy belt beyond Neptune, a spacecraft once drifted past a tiny distant world, the most remote ever visited up close. It found a strange and gentle shape, two rounded lobes joined softly together, like a small snowman drifting in the dark. Long ago, it seems, two separate bodies came together so slowly and gently that they simply touched and stayed, merging into one. It is a quiet relic of the very beginning, scarcely changed in billions of years, preserved in the deep cold. A small, soft, double-lobed world, resting at the frozen frontier, holding the memory of how the first worlds gently came to be. Beyond the main icy belt lies a more scattered realm of distant worlds. Here, frozen bodies follow paths that are tilted and stretched, swinging far out from the sun and slowly back again. They were likely flung outward long ago, gently scattered by the pull of the giant planets in the solar system's youth. Now they drift in lonely, lingering orbits, far from the gentle plane of the planets, out in the deep cold and the dark. They are quiet wanderers of the outer reaches, scattered across the fringes of the sun's family, tracing slow and solitary paths through the great surrounding silence. It is a gentle wonder how comets are ever nudged inward at all, from so far away. Out in the vast shell at the edge of the solar system, the icy bodies drift so slowly, and the sun's pull is so faint that they might rest there almost forever. But the galaxy itself reaches out to them, ever so softly. The distant pull of passing stars and the gentle tides of the Milky Way can nudge an icy body just enough to start it falling inward. And so, over ages, a few are sent drifting gently down toward the warmth, to one day become comets crossing our sky. The great bubble that the sun blows around itself is not a simple sphere. As the whole solar system sweeps through the thin gas between the stars, that bubble is gently shaped by the motion, rounded on the leading side, and drawn out into a long, soft tail behind, much like the wake that trails a boat upon the water. Within this vast, invisible bubble drift all the planets, all the worlds, sheltered from the space beyond. It is the true and quiet boundary of the sun's domain, a great soft shape gliding through the galaxy, carrying its small family of worlds gently within it. Even the space between the stars is not perfectly empty, and the sun is drifting through a soft patch of it now. Spread thinly through our corner of the galaxy are gentle wisps of gas and dust, gathered here and there into faint clouds. At this moment in its long journey, our sun happens to be passing through one such quiet cloud, and will drift on out of it again in ages to come. We notice nothing of it in our daily lives, yet our whole solar system is gliding softly through this faint interstellar mist, on its slow and endless voyage among the stars. Imagine, gently, the skies of other worlds. Each one would glow with its own quiet color. On Mars, the daytime sky is a soft, dusty butterscotch, fading to blue at sunset. Beneath Titan's haze, the sky would hang a deep and gloomy orange. On airless worlds like Mercury or the Moon, the sky is simply black, even by day, with the sun blazing in the darkness and the stars never fading. Each world wears its own sky, painted by its own air, or by the lack of it. To stand upon another world would be to stand beneath a strange and unfamiliar heaven, lit in colors all its own. Day and night fall differently upon each world as well. Some planets spin quickly, turning through day and night in only hours, so that their suns race across the sky. Others turn so slowly that a single day stretches on for months. On some worlds, the sun would be a great warm disk. On the distant giants, it would be only a brilliant, far-off point, scarcely brighter than a star. Everywhere the rhythm of light and dark is set by how each world turns, fast or slow, upright or tilted. The simple cycle of day and night that we know so well takes 1,000 different gentle forms across the solar system. The colors of the planets each tell a quiet story. Mars is red, stained by the rust of iron in its soil. The great giants Jupiter and Saturn wear soft bands of cream and gold, drawn from the clouds in their thick atmospheres. Uranus and Neptune glow in cool blues and greens, colored by a gas high in their air that gently soaks up the red light, leaving only the blue. Each hue is a sign of what a world is made of, and how its air or surface catches the sunlight. The solar system is gently colorful, each planet painted by its own quiet chemistry, drifting in soft and varied shades. It is a lovely puzzle how we ever learnt the weights of distant worlds. We cannot place a planet upon a scale, yet a planet's pull reveals its mass if we watch closely. By measuring how quickly a moon swings around its planet, or how a passing spacecraft is gently tugged off course, we can weigh the world from afar. The faster a moon is pulled along, the heavier its planet must be. And so, simply by watching things move, we have come to know the masses of all the planets, weighing each great world not with a scale, but with patience and gentle observation. Let your thoughts drift, softly, toward the distant future of our own Earth. For now, it is a gentle, living world, wrapped in blue. But the sun grows very slowly brighter as the ages pass. In a far distant time, perhaps 1 billion years from now, it may shine warmly enough that our oceans slowly fade to vapor, and the living world we know gives way to something else. This lies so impossibly far ahead that it casts no shadow on the present at all. It is simply part of the long, slow story of a world that even the Earth, like everything else, drifts gently through its own immense and unhurried seasons. Picture the whole solar system, now, as if seen from very far away. From out among the stars, the sun would be only a single bright point of light, like any other. The planets would be utterly invisible, lost in the glare, their gentle worlds far too small and faint to see. All our storms and oceans and frozen moons, all of it, would shrink to nothing more than one quiet star among countless others. That is how our entire home appears from the depths of the galaxy, a single soft light, holding worlds unseen, drifting quietly in an ocean of other suns, each one perhaps cradling quiet worlds of its own. It can be soothing to picture where, exactly, we rest in all of this. You are on the Earth, the third small world from the Sun. The Earth circles the Sun, one star among the family of planets. The Sun drifts within the Milky Way, one quiet light among hundreds of billions, and the Milky Way floats in a cosmos vaster still. Layer upon layer, our home nests gently within larger and larger homes, each one holding the last. It is a vast address, and yet a comforting one. Wherever you are tonight, you are held, softly, within world upon world, all the way out into the gentle dark. In our brief age, we have reached out and quietly touched every one of these worlds. With small robotic travelers, we have flown past or circled each of the planets, from scorched Mercury to distant Neptune. We have landed gently on a few of them, and on a handful of moons, sending home their first close portraits. Worlds that were, for all of history, only wandering lights have become real places we have seen up close. It is a gentle marvel of our time that the whole solar system, once so far beyond reach, has now been softly visited, world, by travelers we sent into the dark. Through all of it, the sun remains the quiet anchor that holds everything together. Every planet, every moon, every comet and drifting stone is bound to it by gravity, circling that single steady warmth. Without it, the worlds would scatter and drift apart into the cold. But it does not falter. For billions of years it has held them all, gently, in their long and faithful orbits, and for billions more, it will hold them still. The sun is the soft center of our small corner of the universe, the warm and patient heart around which all our worlds quietly turn. And in the end, what lingers most is the gentle balance of it all. So much empty space, and yet so much wonder drifting within it. A single warm star, a handful of worlds, each one strange and beautiful in its own way. Rings and moons and comets and ice, turning slowly through the silence. It is mostly soft, dark emptiness, and that emptiness is part of its peace. There is no rush out there, no noise, no urgency, only worlds turning quietly around a quiet star, as they have for ages, and as they will long after this gentle night is done. It is worth remembering that our sun is only one kind of star among many. Scattered across the galaxy are stars far larger than ours, vast and glowing, and stars far smaller, dim and cool. Some burn with a soft red light, slow and long-lived. Others shine a fierce and brilliant blue. Our sun rests gently somewhere in the middle, calm and yellow and steady. When you look up at the night sky, Every point of light is a sun of its own, each with its own size and color and quiet character. Our star is simply the one we happen to live beside, the one whose warmth we know. The stars themselves seem to gather into shapes, though it is only our eyes that draw them together. For thousands of years, people have looked up and traced patterns among the lights, figures and creatures and old stories written across the dark. Yet the stars in any such pattern are not truly close to one another at all. They lie at wildly different distances, only happening to fall along the same line of sight. The shapes are gentle illusions, drawn by the human heart upon the scattered stars. Still, they have guided and comforted travelers for ages, soft pictures in the sky to keep us company. Among all those drifting stars, one has long held nearly still. There is a star that sits almost exactly above the Earth's northern pole, and as the whole sky wheels slowly through the night, that one star scarcely moves at all. The others seem to turn gently around it, as though it were the quiet hinge of the heavens. For countless travelers, it has been a faithful guide, a steady point in a turning sky. It is a soothing thought that amid all the slow motion of the stars, there is one gentle, constant light that holds its place through the night. To stand upon the moon and look homeward would be one of the most beautiful sights of all. From that gray and silent surface, the Earth would hang in the black sky, a soft blue and white marble, glowing gently against the dark. It would not rise and set as our moon does, but simply rest there, turning slowly, showing its drifting clouds and oceans. The few who have seen our world this way have spoken of how small and precious it looked, a single bright island of life in the vast quiet. Our whole home, gathered into one gentle sphere, floating softly in the night. Even tonight, a few of the planets may be drifting quietly in your own sky. Several of our neighboring worlds are bright enough to see without any telescope at all, shining steadily among the twinkling stars. Venus glows brilliant in the evening or morning. Jupiter and Saturn hang soft and golden. Mars shows its gentle reddish light. They do not twinkle as the stars do, but shine with a calm, steady glow. So the next time you look up at a clear night, some of those quiet lights may not be stars, but worlds, near neighbors, drifting along their own paths around the very same sun. It can be soothing too, simply to feel how old all of this is. Our solar system has been turning for some 4.5 billion years, an expanse of time almost beyond imagining. Against that vastness, a human life is the briefest of moments, a single soft breath, and yet here we are, able to look up and understand a little of it, to know the names of the worlds and trace their gentle paths. The planets turned long before us and will turn long after, patient and unhurried. There is a deep peace in that, in being a small, quiet part of something so ancient and so calm, and perhaps that is the gentlest thought to carry with you into sleep. How rare and quiet a thing it is to live upon a soft blue world beside a steady star in a calm corner of an enormous galaxy. So much of the universe is empty and cold and still. Yet here, on this one small world, there are oceans and mornings and gentle nights, and the quiet wonder of being able to know it all. It is a fortunate place to rest, and it will go on turning softly, carrying you gently through the dark, all through the night and into the morning. And so, in the end, our thoughts come gently home. For all the strange and distant wonders out there, the storms and the rings, the frozen worlds and the glittering dust, the drifting comets and the slow turning of the galaxy, we belong to one small, warm corner of it all. A single quiet star, a handful of patient worlds, and one soft blue planet turning gently in the dark, carrying everything we have ever loved. There is nowhere else quite like it, and tonight it is holding you safely as you rest. And so we drift back from the cold and quiet edge, in past the frozen comets, past the great ringed giants, past the small warm worlds, and home again to the gentle light of our sun. It is a small solar system, set in an ocean of stars, and yet it holds everything we have ever known. A single steady star, worlds of fire and ice and storm, and long, soft distances of darkness, turning slowly, in no hurry at all. But for now, you don't need to travel any farther. You have drifted far enough for one night. Let the planets fade softly into the dark. Let the distant sun grow dim and warm in your mind. Let your breathing slow, and let the weight of the day settle gently away from you. Everything out there will keep turning, slowly and safely, while you rest. If you are still awake, and you would like to keep drifting a little longer, another quiet journey is waiting for you on the screen. And if these calm nights bring you a little peace, you are always welcome to return. Sleep well, and good night.